The global geopolitical landscape has been irrevocably altered. A formidable Russian northern fleet, led by the guided missile cruiser Marshal Ustinov, has decisively arrived in Venezuelan waters in a bold display of power that issues a direct and undeniable challenge to the United States hegemony. This unprecedented military deployment, unfolding in what Washington traditionally considers its backyard, signals a critical inflection point. It represents a deliberate affront to American dominance and a clear indication that a large-scale military confrontation is imminent. The world watches with bated breath. Is the Caribbean about to become the flashpoint for a new global conflict? What began as a simmering bilateral tension has now escalated into an unbreakable strategic alliance, poised to fundamentally reshape the international order. Intelligence assessments from the Pentagon, corroborated by NATO sources and advanced satellite imagery, confirm the presence of a powerful Russian fleet in the Western Atlantic. This force is operating in close concert with Venezuelan military units. This powerful naval contingent includes, for the first time with such explicit presence in this crucial region, the cruiser Marshal Ustinov of the Slava class and at least 2 Akula-class nuclear-powered attack submarines. This is far more than a mere show of force. It is an unambiguous declaration that Moscow is resolute in safeguarding its strategic interests in Venezuela, regardless of the cost, even if it precipitates a direct and unprecedented naval clash with the U.S. Navy. In response, the U.S. Southern Command, SOUTHCOM, headquartered in Doral, Florida, has escalated its alert status to DEFCON 2, a level rarely seen since the Cuban Missile Crisis. Naval and air assets are being rapidly deployed from key U.S. bases in Florida, Puerto Rico, and Guantanamo. With chilling precision and synchronized intent, the Kremlin is testing the limits of Washington's patience and the enduring relevance of the Monroe Doctrine, a cornerstone of U.S. foreign policy for over 2 centuries, which now faces its most profound and existential challenge. This in-depth analysis will not only chronicle these real-time developments, but will also meticulously dissect the intricate layers underlying this unparalleled crisis, revealing the hidden motivations and calculated risks. We will explore how this audacious provocation was painstakingly engineered through decades of strategic alliances, significant infrastructure investments, and growing influence across Latin America, thereby transforming the region from a simple commodity supplier into a geopolitical battleground of global significance. Our investigation will delve into the economic, ideological, and strategic imperatives driving the boldness of Vladimir Putin, who perceives Venezuela as a pivotal opportunity to redraw the global order and contest unipolar hegemony. Crucially, we will assess the potentially devastating repercussions that a single misstep, be it a misunderstood warning shot, an accidental maritime collision, or an uncontrolled rhetorical escalation, could unleash upon global stability, carrying the very real prospect of armed conflict between nuclear-armed powers. Prepare to unravel the profound reasons why Russia is directly confronting the U.S. in Venezuela. This represents, in essence, the most audacious and dangerous strategic maneuver on the vast geopolitical chessboard of the 21st century. It is a move that compels Washington into an existential decision, presenting an agonizing dilemma. Either concede and accept the erosion of its undisputed supremacy in the Western Hemisphere, thereby setting a perilous precedent for other rising powers, or advance and risk a direct military confrontation with a formidable nuclear-armed adversary, incurring immeasurable human and economic costs. Join us for this in-depth examination to decipher the complexities of this critical juncture, where diplomatic rhetoric has materialized into warships, and the echoes of a new Cold War resonate louder than ever, now amplified by a single powerful voice. The synchronized arrival of the Russian naval forces in Venezuelan waters is not an isolated incident, but the culmination of a meticulously crafted strategy of power projection by Moscow. This bold maneuver constitutes a direct challenge to the Monroe Doctrine and Washington's long-standing sphere of influence, transforming the Caribbean into a global powder keg. The presence of cutting-edge naval assets from the Russian Navy in such close proximity to U.S. coastlines serves as a potent declaration of intent, compelling the U.S. to formulate an unprecedented response. According to detailed naval intelligence, assessments and reports from authoritative specialized publications, the Russian task force incorporates pivotal elements from its blue water fleet. Confirmed assets include the guided missile cruiser Marshal Ustinov, a Slava-class vessel equipped with formidable firepower, including P-1000 Vulcan anti-ship cruise missiles. Accompanying it, Gorshkov-class frigates, such as the Admiral Gorshkov, armed with Kaliber cruise missiles, have been detected. However, the most profound concern for the Pentagon stems from the confirmed operation of at least 2 Akula-class nuclear-powered attack submarines in the region. These submarines, celebrated for their extreme stealth and lethal precision, pose a silent and elusive threat capable of dramatically altering the balance of power in any naval engagement. This unprecedented convergence of military might, featuring advanced technology from a nuclear power, unequivocally demonstrates Russia's collective resolve to challenge U.S. hegemony in its own perceived backyard. The United States' reaction was characterized by an unparalleled level of gravity. The U.S. Southern Command, SOUTHCOM, headquartered in Doral, Florida, promptly elevated its alert status to DEFCON 2, a level rarely seen since the Cuban Missile Crisis. Pentagon sources confirmed the rapid mobilization of Carrier Strike Group 8, spearheaded by the nuclear-powered aircraft carrier USS Gerald R. Ford, a colossal and unmatched platform for power projection. This formidable group comprises at least 1 Ticonderoga-class cruiser, such as the USS Lady Gulf, and a squadron of Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, including the USS Arleigh Burke and the USS Roosevelt. Furthermore, the presence of Virginia-class fast attack submarines, such as the USS Montana, has been verified, operating covertly in the region to monitor and, if required, neutralize any Russian submarine threats. SOUTHCOM's official communiqué, while maintaining a tone of ensuring security and freedom of navigation, delivered an unambiguous and somber warning. Make no mistake, any foreign state actor attempting to destabilize the region and support illicit regimes will face the resolute determination of the United States Armed Forces. We are monitoring all activities and are prepared to respond decisively and overwhelmingly to protect our interests and those of our partners. This declaration left no doubt that Washington would not passively accept the Russian military presence as a fait accompli, raising the tension to alarming levels. The escalating tension in the Caribbean transcended mere geopolitics. It was a raw demonstration of power, with 2 of the world's most potent navies on a potential collision course, raising the stakes to an imminent naval confrontation with catastrophic global ramifications. For the Venezuelan government, the arrival of the Russian fleet represented both a political lifeline and a powerful reassertion of its defiant posture, now bolstered by unprecedented military backing. Nicolas Maduro publicly expressed his gratitude to the government of Russia, proclaiming with fervor, "Russia is our elder brother, our unbreakable strategic ally, with whom we will forge the multipolar future and true justice for the peoples of the world." This meticulously choreographed moment was immediately broadcast during prime time by state television networks in Russia, presented as a symbol of the unbreakable alliance between the 2 nations against the imperialist and hegemonic aggression of the U.S. and its Western allies, solidifying the narrative of joint resistance. Western intelligence analysts observe that, despite their seemingly symbolic nature, Maduro's gestures are underpinned by a serious and calculated military political strategy. By overtly positioning itself in Venezuela's defense, Russia is sending an unequivocal message to the world. Its spheres of influence are no longer confined to its immediate regions, and it is prepared to provoke the U.S. on its own territory, now in a coordinated, audacious, and formidable manner. In direct response to the escalating U.S. military presence, Venezuela announced extensive military exercises, dubbed Bolivarian Shield 2026, to be conducted on the strategic La Orchila Island in Sucre State and along the eastern coast, transforming the region into a stage for military maneuvers. These maneuvers, which included the active participation of elite units of the Bolivarian National Armed Forces and the integration of state-of-the-art Russian-sourced air defense systems, such as the S-300, were presented as a clear demonstration of defensive capabilities and a stern warning that the nation would not be an easy target, but rather a formidable adversary. The atmospheric tension was almost palpable, like a dense fog of uncertainty, as the world watched with apprehension, acutely aware that any miscalculation could transform this rhetorical and military escalation into a conflict of catastrophic and unforeseeable proportions. With each warship drawing nearer, with each increasingly sharp declaration from both sides, the Caribbean was morphing into a complex and dangerous chessboard where every move was calculated. Yet the ultimate consequences remained profoundly uncertain and terrifying. In this volatile scenario, the Russian presence had entirely reshaped the game's dynamics, forcing the U.S. to meticulously reevaluate every step in the face of an imminent naval confrontation with unprecedented global implications, which could redefine the 21st century. The decision by Russia to orchestrate a naval deployment in Venezuela is far from an impulsive act. Rather, it is a clear manifestation of its ambition to directly challenge U.S. hegemony and fundamentally reconfigure the world order. This strategic maneuver, which overtly defies the Monroe Doctrine and Washington's long-established sphere of influence, signals a decisive new phase in Moscow's foreign policy doctrine. Here, the principle of non-intervention yields to an assertive military presence in regions deemed vital for its interests, serving to rigorously test the boundaries of U.S. global primacy. A high-ranking official from the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in a rare public statement, asserted that the naval presence aims to safeguard the legitimate interests of our allies in the region and ensure global stability against predatory external interference. This statement, while diplomatic, underscores a deeper intent to project power and directly challenge Washington with a tone of veiled defiance. Western intelligence analysts and military strategists, such as Dr. Samuel Huntington of the Center for Strategic and International Studies, assert that the primary impetus behind this action is the protection of substantial investments and securing access to critical strategic resources, such as Venezuelan oil, coupled with an overarching desire to project power and directly challenge Washington in its own backyard. Russia, for its part, has served as a pivotal supplier of advanced weaponry and cutting-edge military technology to Venezuela, with agreements surpassing $11 billion, including Sukhoi Su-30 fighter jets and S-300 anti-aircraft defense systems. Moscow has also maintained a sporadic military footprint in the region, including long-range strategic bomber flights of Tu-160 Blackjack and naval port calls, such as the cruiser Peter the Great da Venezuela. Possessing the world's largest proven oil reserves and a highly strategic geographical position that gives direct access to the Atlantic, stands as an invaluable partner for Russia, guaranteeing the supply of vital resources and solidifying its presence in a region historically dominated by the United States, openly challenging the Monroe Doctrine. The Russian military presence also delivers an unequivocal and alarming message to Washington. The era of uncontested U.S. primacy in the Western Hemisphere is now under severe and direct attack. Moscow is actively pursuing the establishment of a multipolar order, wherein its economic and military influence extends globally, directly contesting the existing unipolar framework imposed by the U.S. This profound paradigm shift indicates that Russia is transitioning from a predominantly regional defense posture to one of global expansion and assertiveness, challenging traditional borders. Venezuela, with its immense oil wealth and strategic location, thus transforms into an epicenter of this evolving strategy, serving as a critical launchpad for Russian power projection directly into the United States' traditional backyard, an unprecedented provocation. This audacity not only fundamentally reconfigures the regional balance of power, but also raises profound and disturbing questions regarding the future of global geopolitics and the very real prospect of a new Cold War, characterized by unexpected flashpoints and the imminent threat of a naval confrontation of catastrophic proportions, which could set the world ablaze. The Monroe Doctrine, proclaimed in 1823, has for 2 centuries served as the cornerstone of U.S. foreign policy in the Western Hemisphere, asserting that any intervention by external powers in the political affairs of the Americas would be viewed as a hostile act. Russia's current naval deployment in Venezuelan waters represents the most direct and audacious challenge to this doctrine in modern history, compelling Washington to confront a geopolitical reality it has long sought to prevent. Historically, the U.S. has invoked the Monroe Doctrine to justify interventions ranging from the Cuban Missile Crisis, with its moments of nuclear tension, to various military and political actions across Latin America, shaping the history of the region. The doctrine established a sphere of influence that, until recently, remained largely unchallenged by major global powers, ensuring American hegemony in the hemisphere. However, Russia, under the assertive leadership of Vladimir Putin, has systematically worked to erode this hegemony, viewing it as an impediment to a more balanced and multipolar world order. The deployment of warships and submarines to Venezuela is not merely a symbolic gesture. It is a calculated strategic move, designed to test the resolve of the U.S. and demonstrate Russia's undeniable capacity to project power globally, challenging Western red lines. The immediate implications for regional stability are profoundly alarming. The presence of advanced Russian naval assets so close to U.S. coastlines creates a new and dangerous level of tension, exponentially increasing the potential for miscalculations that could have disastrous consequences. Naval experts and geopolitical strategists are now openly discussing scenarios that were once considered unthinkable and apocalyptic. Direct naval confrontations, accidental skirmishes, and the rapid escalation of a localized dispute into a global conflict, with the Caribbean at its center. The Caribbean, once a relatively stable region under incontestable U.S. influence, is now a hotbed of intense international military activity, a veritable powder keg awaiting a spark. Globally, this move by Russia sends a clear and unmistakable message. The era of U.S. unipolar dominance is over, and a new and dangerous era of fierce competition between great powers is in full swing, redefining the geopolitical map. Russia is asserting its inalienable right to operate anywhere in the world, openly challenging the traditional U.S. claim of exclusive and incontestable influence in its hemisphere, a direct affront to the Monroe Doctrine. This shift has far-reaching and potentially devastating consequences for international law, diplomatic norms, and the future of global security, with an impact that will be felt for decades. It forces an urgent reassessment of alliances, defense strategies, and the very definition of national security for many nations, particularly those in Latin America, that now find themselves dangerously caught between competing global powers, with their future at stake. The standoff in the Caribbean is a volatile chess match, where a single misstep could trigger a catastrophic chain of events. Geopolitical analysts and military strategists have outlined 4 potential scenarios, each with escalating levels of conflict and global repercussions. In this scenario, the initial confrontation evolves into a prolonged and tense standoff. Both the U.S. and Russian fleets maintain their presence, engaging in a continuous cat-and-mouse game of surveillance and intimidation. This high-stakes Cold War in the Caribbean would be characterized by close-quarters maneuvering, electronic warfare, and a constant state of high alert. While avoiding direct combat, the psychological and economic costs would be immense, with global markets in turmoil and the world holding its breath, waiting for the first shot to be fired. The most feared scenario among military planners is an accidental escalation, a collision between warships in tense waters. A misidentified aircraft or an overzealous commander could trigger a limited military exchange. This could involve warning shots, the downing of a drone, or even a targeted strike on a naval asset. While both sides would likely seek to de-escalate, the fog of war could easily lead to a rapid and uncontrolled spiral of violence, with each action prompting a more forceful reaction. To avoid a direct superpower confrontation, the conflict could morph into a proxy war fought on Venezuelan soil. The U.S. could increase its support for opposition factions, while Russia would embed its military advisors and special forces within the Venezuelan military. This would transform Venezuela into a brutal and bloody battlefield, reminiscent of Syria or Vietnam, with devastating consequences for the civilian population and regional stability. The Caribbean would become a chessboard for a deadly game of influence, with each side arming and training its proxies for a protracted and destructive conflict. This is the doomsday scenario: a failure to de-escalate, a direct attack on a major naval asset, or a political decision to force the issue could lead to a full-scale naval battle between the U.S. and Russian fleets. Such a conflict between 2 nuclear-armed powers would be unprecedented in modern history. The use of anti-ship missiles, torpedoes, and carrier-based aircraft would result in catastrophic losses on both sides. The global economy would collapse and the world would be pushed to the brink of nuclear war. This is the scenario that keeps world leaders and military commanders awake at night, a testament to the terrifying stakes of the current crisis. The arrival of the Russian Navy in Venezuelan waters marks a dramatic, dangerous, and potentially irreversible turning point in global geopolitics. What began as a calculated strategic maneuver has rapidly evolved into an alarming direct confrontation between two nuclear powers, with Venezuela dangerously caught in the crossfire like a pawn in a much larger game. The implications are profound and frightening, extending far beyond the Caribbean to reshape the international order and challenge the very foundations of U.S. hegemony, which once seemed unshakable. The world now stands on the brink of a precipice, watching in terror as the Monroe Doctrine faces its most formidable and perhaps decisive test in over 2 centuries. The choices made by Washington and Moscow in the coming weeks will determine whether this escalation leads to a new and dangerous era of tense coexistence or descends into an unimaginable conflict, with consequences that will haunt humanity for generations. The stakes could not be higher, as the echoes of a new Cold War resonate with chilling and menacing clarity across the globe, heralding an uncertain future. Call to action. What do you think about this unprecedented Russian naval deployment and its implications for world peace? How do you believe the U.S. should respond to this direct challenge in its traditional sphere of influence? Share your thoughts and analysis in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and activate notifications so you don't miss any of our in-depth geopolitical analysis. Your engagement is crucial for us to continue bringing critical insights into the world's most urgent and dangerous problems.